the fathers were completely opposite to the sons, and that actually made sense because the sons wanted to rebel against their father, so that's why they turned out to be completely opposite to each other as well.
It felt like they should have swapped dads and they would have been happy.
No, but even that wouldn't have worked, nah. Either way, they would have ended up opposite to their fathers. In context of masculinity, I think from this we can maybe learn that one very important influence of masculinity can be your urge to reject your father's notion of masculinity. And I think this is something that we all also experience, right? Our own value system is influenced by what we don't like about our dads, and that's how we perhaps shape our perception of masculinity.
I wouldn't deny that one bit. I think we finally found the starting point of the film in that sense. The last shot of the film is Vikram and both of them sitting over there, and him just leaning his head on her shoulder. The film ends over there with the beautiful song Babraman playing. What was the feeling that you were left with when the film got over?
At the end, it means that, as the lyrics also says, Bavraman, it's telling about the state of mind of both the characters, each and every characters, but the unconditional love of Vikram's character for Geeta is being justified through that song, so that it will stay with us. It was also about revolution, but it was love. And from love only revolution arises, because if you love a cause, you become a rebel, because to things to get normal, or to make anything change. So for that change to come, you love should be there. So the theme of love is being expressed.
Even I was very confused towards the end of the film. Ki, what are they actually trying to talk throughout the film? And this particular moment felt like suddenly the movie is about love and about how, as Saurav also mentioned, right? It left you with that feeling ki, oh, it's, about them, or that, he's always been there with her, knowingly or unknowingly, like without her like acknowledging him. But apart from that, the song, when that is there incorporated in the scene, so the lyrics of it very clearly say things like the mind does not know, the heart does not know like what all it wants, like it wants everything. And it felt that Chitrangada is in that particular headspace, because still she is still persisting, she's still revolting in very smaller and quieter ways. So it's crazy that she thinks that she can make a difference, but she's going ahead with it.
So I just think that, I mean, the scene probably symbolizes making peace with disillusionment, if that makes any sense at all. Like feeling hopeless, but being comfortable in that hopelessness in a way. Because that's what the characters were experiencing at that particular moment.
Like if I had to put it in words about what the story was about, what the main theme was about, I felt it was, apart from the apparent political conflict that is there about the emergency that happened in India back in 75, but apart from that, it is also about these three young, ambitious, idealistic people from a decent English medium background who have a lot of dreams to fulfill, who have a lot of ideals and opinions and ideologies that they want to aspire to live through all their life. But it's about the reality checks, the limitations that, of the world and of their individual resilience that sort of they face throughout the journey, and them realizing that they will have to sort of compromise or find a balance somewhere. And I think hopelessness was the only balance that the two of them, actually three of them, could have found at the end: compromise and hopelessness, and just trying to live with that. I constantly was wondering whether they actually lost, whether they gave up. But then I realized they didn't actually give up. They just moved on to different battles, I think.
I think that Geeta is the character that still try to revolt and still tries to go on with her principles and commitment. But the fact that Vikram was at the end was maybe the out of the three of them the most beaten, because he's in such a terrible state. And I remember the beginning where he told Geeta, Siddharth is not like the two of us. He's from an upper class background, so he is gonna win in any way. And in fact, it's like somehow it's like that. And Vikram, is the one that tries all the film. He tries to succeed, but he's the one who is like pushed down, even if he has nothing to do with the rebellion. So it felt really, I don't know, like there's no change. Is there any change possible at all?
Did the feeling of hopelessness come to you when the film ended? What would you have done differently if you had gotten a chance? Would you have made a little more optimistic ending? Also, do you consider this ending as hopeful, or as, yeah, I agree that it left, the characters were left with a sense of hopelessness, but were you left with a sense of hopelessness? Did you feel that all the revolution that they tried to do, all the things that they're trying to achieve, they were all a waste? Did you feel demotivated by the end of it? What's the point of all of this?
For Siddharth's character, obviously felt a lot of pain and a lot of like disappointment. Okay, like he's actually the one who had to pay the consequence. And it also was very funny, like when you compare, I had written something about like Hazaaron Khwaishein Aisi when I was just like, when I just watched the film, and it came to me that, the common man, like it seemed like Siddharth was that. He was the common middle class man who had to like face the grind of it, and there was only like, he had the mentality of by hook or by crook, I need to get. KK Menon was the affluent, and Chitrangada was the passionate artist who was going to do this no matter what. And it's so sad that because she was the artist, the art of, or the journey of even making the difference mattered to her. So she kind of achieved. KK Menon escaped, so he achieved. And this guy again got kind of like grounded, like he's screwed basically. So that was very disappointing, that reality check. But I think apart from that, it did not, at least Chitrangada's character and the kind of decision that she comes up to did not leave me with a sense of disappointment. Especially now also, like post working in TFI as well, you go in with a lot of energy ki, oh my god, you're going to change the entire classroom, you're going to inspire students to do better because they come from a community which is not financially stable. But that is not the case, and you just like every day realize that I'm making no impact, and you constantly feel like that. But that reality check is not necessarily disappointing, but important for you to know ki, okay, you need to, it's not a big revolution that you're going to go and create. It's the smallest steps that you're going to do, right? Like just being calm. And that reality check is very helpful for the person who is like trying to do this. So it was very good for Geeta in that sense of getting it. Ki, theek hai, this route is not going to work. It's going to be slow steps and not knee-jerk actions, which is going to break the society, which is going to break my bond. So in that way, it did not feel demotivating at all. In fact, it instilled a sense of, okay, Tika, she's still on that journey. Like someone didn't give up.
I think at one of the last scenes, one of the last letters that are being read, us time pe bhi it was mentioned that now the lower caste women are not being raped because people are scared that they might be beheaded or something. They created that change, that 19 years that they spent over there probably had that small, that it's not a small impact, but it looks small in the larger scheme of things. But that impact was created, and that's enough at times, because the idea of revolution is so dramatized and over romanticized at times that you end up feeling that it's the bigger things, it's the entire coup that needs to happen in order to show that things have changed. But the small changes that you make in the actual reality that you're living in, that will probably remain for longer.
Yes, I was really disappointed actually by the end of the film, because I know, for example, the scene in which Vikram is beaten by the police, it looked like a comic scene in my point of view in certain moments. In fact, I wasn't aware till the end that going to happen something so dramatic to him, so terrible to him. And it left me really, really disappointed and a little confused. And I also thought, what is the meaning of the end of Vikram, of what happens to him? It's just another way to denounce, to show the corruption and the violent need of Indian police, or there is another meaning?
About the policeman beating him, it felt comical in a satirical sense, about how they were trying to find the bullets where bullets weren't there, but they did something else over there. So it was sadistic in that sense, in some way. But it was a different tone to the film that it was having. but I think the director was going for that shock value, and I think in that sense it really delivered.
The end for me is not a feeling of hopelessness. It's a feeling, I think it is hopeful feeling, because all the three characters where they wanted to be, they are, because KK Menon's character wanted to make the change, and so he finally went to for higher studies to foreign. Geeta wanted to stay back, and Shiny Ahuja's character, in a letter from KK Menon, we came to know that he flew away from the center, a rehabilitation center or any hospital he was kept in. He flew away. So he flew to came to Gita. The character went to their destiny. Means they are in their final position. So I think it is a feeling of hopefulness, because they traversed the whole trajectory and fulfilled the path where they wanted to be. I read one article where the film's previous name they thought to be Twist with Destiny. So, but they wanted to make it an Indian film. So they gave the name Hazaaron Khwaishein Aisi. They were discussing in the article that Faiz Ahmad Faiz, the poet, he has more political perspective apart from Mirza Ghalib. So if we go deeper into this film, so they all had that dream to bring change. So that Hazaaron Khwaishein Aisi. And Ghalib tells about life. He speaks about the perspective of life, taking this verse into consideration, that हजारों ख्वाहिशें ऐसी कि हर ख्वाहिश पे दम निकले, बहुत निकले मेरे अरमा फिर भी कम
निकले. Yeah.
So it is telling about life. So the film is more about life, and politics is about life. And Sudhir Mishra wanted to portray that, yes, means we deny or we means don't deny, we are the part of politics. Love is part of politics, life is part of politics. So that is the main motive of the film.
Genuinely, and I agree about that. So for Marina and Alexandra as well. So Tryst with Destiny, it was a speech given by India's first Prime Minister just after India got independence. So it's a very popular speech for Indians. So they wanted to keep the name as Twist with Destiny for this film as a callback to that film, and a twist on the name of that, because that speech basically defines what India was supposed to be. A very hopeful speech about a beautiful democracy, and how the country will be united and all of that. So, and how things are shaking, especially because the daughter of the India's first Prime Minister, Indira Gandhi, is the one under whom India was under emergency. She was the one who was the most authoritarian of the rulers that we have had, one of the most authoritarian ones amongst that. So just how things have changed, and how the first Prime Minister's dream of India's destiny is being questioned at this point. So they wanted to keep the name Twist with Destiny, but again, like, because Hazaaron Khwaishein Aisi is an Indian, Urdu phrase that made more sense because it's an Indian film.
So the film left me with the sense of hopelessness, because the first very disappointing thing which I felt was for Vikram, because he had nothing to do with it. At the first place, he never wanted to be a part of it, and he was the one who suffered the most or got affected by it the most. Like for Geeta as well. So like she was the one who wanted to be with Siddharth, and that's the reason first she wanted to be the part of all this. She also suffered a lot, and like in the end she did not get to live with Siddharth. Even when that scene was there in the hospital, not hospital, I guess police station. So when Vikram was also hospitalized there, so I was really disappointed when Siddharth did not help him. I thought that it was the least thing that he could do for him. All this thing felt like I felt very hopeless at that point.
One of the things that I read was why Sudhir Mishra, the director of this film, he said that the most I relate to as a character is Geeta's character. That's like she's basically what I'm trying to say through this film. And I'll just read out what he had talked about in that interview. He said, maybe the people who are gentler and not ideologically savage and rigid are the people who will finally survive and make a change. And Geeta was the one who survived in the most sane manner possible, in some sense.
True.
And she stayed back.
Sudhir Mishra started his film journey with a film called Ye Wo Manzil To Nahi. This is not the this is not the point where we want to reach, if that is the right sentence in English. And in his debut film, ye wo manzil to nahi, there are three sort of friends who meet after a point of time, and they reimagine a situation like how idealistic they were in college days and how things have changed and nothing made sense, and these 3-4 friends are reinvestigating that time, that past gone time about their college days. And in that film there is this song Hazaaron Khwaishein Aisi, and it plays at last, and when I saw that film, I thought that it connects Hazaaron Khwaishein Aisi. And there is a difference between khwais and manzil. Matlab, khwais is something that you wish, like that's not even possible, or that's superficial, or dream is something that you believe in, and it's kind of more realistic than khwais. So the difference between khwais and dream is that even though the characters have dreams, they have bigger dreams to achieve, they want to succeed. This khwaises, when they talk about khwaises, Hazaaron Khwaishein Aisi, they believe in something that's not possible. So they, throughout the process, what they want to achieve isn't being, it's not being presented in a way. And that's what I feel, the naivety of young idealism in a sort of way.
There was this one scene in the film, in initial part of the film, when Siddharth had sort of started, he felt he had started a revolution in the village he was in, where everyone started protesting against the main panchayat person or somebody who was the head of the village over there, the upper caste person over there. And when he suddenly has a heart attack, everybody starts to comfort him and starts to make him feel like, are you okay? And they try to, help him out over there. And he says that he doesn't understand why the oppressed suddenly have become so sympathetic towards the oppressor. And he just ends his letter by saying, I still don't understand why. My response to what Mai said would also sort of be that only. It's just so conflicting. Like what I mentioned was a completely different scene. But I think the essence of it for me is still the same. If something's true about India, then the other thing is also, the opposite is also equally true about India. I think for every other place, obviously, in that sense as well. I wanted to talk about the characters a little bit now. Actually, the relationships that the characters share. What do you think was the kind? I was very confused about the relationship shared between Geeta and Siddharth, and why Geeta was so just couldn't move on from him. So I just want to know what were those qualities about Siddharth that sort of made her not want to just move on and just was constantly just going back to him. Was it some sense of fear? Was it some specific quality about him that made her want to go back to him? Why do you think she liked him so much and was wanting to persevere so much?
I was thinking about that for the whole film, and at the beginning I was quite sure that she would have left him, and that she eventually will end up with Vikram, but not in the way it actually happens. So, and then I was quite confused because I really thought it was about a love triangle, that Geeta would fall out of love with Siddharth, but I don't know. I think he's like a very specific character that I could recognize even from other movies like American or also Italian. And it's a character that in Italy we have like in some left-leaning groups. We have a sort of way, maybe more feminist left-leaning groups. So we have a sort of way of address this kind of men that are they believe in a revolution, but at the same time, I think he's really self-centered. And in his idealism is he doesn't really know what is around him, like the real world, and also he I think he loves her, but at the same time, he doesn't really know her and doesn't really want to know her.
There is another movie called Saath Saath, and usme also again Geeta is the female character who ends up falling in love with Farooq Sheikh.
Farooq
Yes,
Sheikh.
sorry. She ends up developing a crush on him again because of the kind of worldview that he has and the kind of opinions that he shares. So I think in the context that she was, her liking somebody who seemed to have some moral high ground, who seemed to have this sense of the world ki we need to do something. Basically, something that inspires or moves her. Because on the opposite end, if we consider Vikram, as much as he loved her, he did not inspire her, right? He did not move her or challenge her. But Siddharth did. And I think, given the kind of person that Geeta was, that she was also very motivated in the same purpose, that I think held her calling more. And apart from, and it's very ironical that somebody who is as self-absorbed and self-centered, as Alexandra also mentioned, as Siddharth was, had the worldview where he had to help people. You know, so it was genuinely very ironical, and that is what I think Geeta was constantly in dilemma of. Like maybe, like I'm just assuming, like maybe the times that she felt undervalued or she felt ki, okay, you know, he's not giving me enough. She used to see this side, and that respect used to sustain, and she's like, no, he's just, you know, she used to give reasons to herself ki he's doing something which is for a bigger purpose.
Maybe that, and also like if you remember initially when she asks him to like Siddharth to say I love you, he takes those pauses, he takes that time. I think that is enough to show that, you know, that like she is a cog in the wheel for him. He has categorized her as a part of her life and not something that he'll give. Let's say if he has like 100 ounces of energy in him, he'll probably not give like more than 20 ounces of his energy in talking to her or loving her. Like if in throughout the film, I didn't find any point where he sacrificed for her. Everything was about him and around him. The fact that he ended up going to, I sympathize with him. I completely understand where he came from, you know. But still, like he never saw anything beyond him. Like helping, I won't go to the point of saying that helping others was also about making himself feel good about himself, but at some point it was that, like it made him feel good, which obviously it does make people feel good when, but it was never about anything else. Like at the end also he decides to go out because he is unsure when he'll come back. He's unsure that, oh, I'm not sure, I don't know when I'll, you know, talk to you again. It's never about her, it's about him and how she fits in all of that.
To put myself in the shoes of Siddharth, I think it takes a certain level of delusionment to actually believe in revolution, and what sort of said starting in his जब वो बोल रहा था that in the end everyone gets in a way that they desired starting में. She found a way to make a change in some way, and Siddharth went because he also want to make change, and Vikram came to her. But getting what you want is a kind of hopelessness. So like the only thing about hopefulness ka situation is the continuous need or continuous search for something that does not exist. It's the only thing that's hopeful, that is continuous, that exists. Meaninglessness is hopeful because it is continuous, it is going to be forever, and this search is what makes things wahan pe. And what I can think of Siddharth is why he is behaving like this, because I can understand that how people become not self-centered, but to be involved in a love romantic relationship, one needs to sacrifice a lot of ideas or morals in a way, because you are thinking about a humanistic perspective. Or like this person Fassbinder karke, there is a director, German director, he has said that he thinks that there is a very oppressive kind of relationship between two people, because the original idea of love, or what love wants to achieve, is the totality, this acceptance towards everyone. And when one go in this pursuit to actually have something that does not exist, to have something that makes one's existence meaningful in a way, it just doesn't make sense, I mean, after a point. And I can see the struggle of Geeta because I've seen this. Mia Hansen loves this French filmmaker. She has a film called In Love. Karke, there is a film. In that film, there is a lady who is very completely in love with another person, and this person is like, I have to see the world. I have to take journey. I have to be involved in a lot of things. Otherwise, if I'll be devotional towards you, then I'll lose my sense of belonging, and I'll sense, if I'll be involved with you, with one person, my sense of worldview will be very limited. And so
Right.
he just left her, and this young girl whose only definition of the world is around loves. If somebody asks her what is your purpose of life, she says ki, I just want to love this guy. Love is my only console in this supposedly world. And after a time, I think what love does to you, or what it revolution does to you, it makes you aware about your certain decisions. And if you, the knowing of the world is basically knowing yourself better. And what Siddharth was trying her, or was stimulating her, was in a sense to understand herself better, to take decision that she believes in, or
Yeah.
that is what happens at the end of the film. Even though Siddharth gets delusional at that level, maybe I think I also think ki Geeta might also takes this same step that Siddharth took, and she might also go to some fused kehte foreign university after a point of time, because she will also understand this thing. And Siddharth, since Siddharth has already taken this step pehle se, so he has gone pehle.
We can see visually, Siddharth is wearing something which appeals to the audience. Means uh, either his military shirt, or the dress he wears, or the style he carries, unlike to that of Shiny Ahuja's character, that is Vikram. He always remains as a normal guy. But if we take a look, means visibly, Siddharth is like that. Yes, I am having a left inclined ideology. Through his appearance we can see. And if we notice the background of his room, there is posters of Fidel Castro, Che Guevara. So he is visibly trying to project himself that yes, I am left inclined. So that things means incline Gita also towards her. So that is visibly portrayed. And one more thing, if we see the beard from starting, we see, when we see KK Menon, that is Siddharth's character in college, he's clean shaved, means he is developing that ideology. When he goes to village, he grows the beard. He has developed that ideology. When he decides to leave India, he again trims off his beard. He is again clean shaved. So he has, means he have means lived all through his, means that 10 years about that ideology, and he thought that yes, I cannot make change on the ground level. I have to go somewhere, and then I will come and grow my ideology again. So that is the visible thing about KK Menon's character, Sudhir Mishra brought.
His hair also grew. It became messier,
Correct,
and his
correct, correct.
skin also got a little duskier. And
That's clear.
after he when in the scene, remember when Vikram's character is full banded up and he's sitting in the hall with them in the sofa. He
Yeah.
has a very nicely combed hair. He has the
Yeah,
beard,
combed hair.
but yes, Siddharth has a very nicely combed hair. So it shows that okay,
Correct.
maybe things are, and he's like properly oiled, and like it's like
Yeah.
that now things are changing. And the next scene you see him in, completely shaved off and a little different
Shaved.
hair. So yeah, like there was
Yes,
that progression as well. That combing
progression.
started,
Yes.
and then like the shave also happened. One very interesting dialogue, very randomly, that came in the initial part of the film was, I don't remember who said it. Some college guy only I think said it. Was that, dude, I completely believe in this ideology, but my dad is rich. Like I think something like that he had said, and it just stuck with me. Like, dude, that is so. It's so funny
Yeah.
for some reason.
One more dialogue I would like to add. Speech going on somewhere, means, and KK Menon's character and Chitrangada's character were also attending that means session. So someone told that if we add socialist to a term, then that does not mean that the party becomes good or something like that, because Nazi also had socialist in them. So he mentioned Hitler. So the common man sitting there, villagers, they told, do you know Hitler? So he again replied back, no, I don't know Hitler. Is he from your village? So that sort of thing, because the terms are in the heads of means rich people, means those who are educated, but those who are means villagers, they are not accustomed with those terms, means the political ideologies and big terms which we tell.
One of the main gripes that people have with the Jawaharlal Nehru initial Indian socialist Nehruvian idea of socialism was that it was very top-down approach, and there was a clear divide between the Angrezi Babu, the English-speaking elite, and the rural people, and there was this a very switch. Like the middle class wasn't that huge in India. That thing changed much later. One another interesting aspect in this film, which was shown, was the English that was being used. So, for some context, in the 50s, 60s, till probably even the late 80s, the English that Indians used was very British inclined, like British influenced. Like, I suppose this is how things are supposed to be done. Like, that's a very English approach to how things are said. But with the rise of globalization, with the American capitalism on the rise, Indian English also became more, yeah, dude, like this is how I speak, and that's how it sort of evolved. And like we don't like, for example, I got very confused that why are they speaking in this English? It feels so jarring for us also. But then in my mind was, this is a 2003 film. Why should I speak like this? But then I realized, oh, it's actually showing the past, so it actually makes perfect sense that they're speaking like that. So that another aspect about the film that very, very interesting. One more interesting thing I thought that film could have expanded upon but did not was the relationships that the two men, Siddharth and Vikram, shared with their fathers. What is your opinion on the relationship that they shared with their fathers? Do you think they looked up to them, and what do you think was the kind of parenting that they had gotten, and what's your understanding of masculinity that you got from this film? Because it was a very clear thing that, let's say, for example, Vikram is making a joke, Siddharth will not laugh, even though it might be just him. Like Vikram, when he's just mimicking something, Vikram will not laugh. Oh, sorry, Siddharth will just not laugh. It might not be funny, but just he might not do it because whatever. Like, what was your understanding of masculinity through the film? And do you think there was any influence of their dads on them and what they ended up doing?
Okay, I think that the fathers were completely opposite to the sons, and that actually made sense because the sons wanted to rebel against their father, so that's why they turned out to be completely opposite to each other as well.
It felt like they should have swapped dads and they would have been happy.
No, but even that wouldn't have worked. No, either way they would have ended up opposite to their fathers, because that
Yeah, I
is
mean, yeah, like I agree. But like it felt like the ideal dad for Siddharth would be Vikram's dad, and the other way around. In some sense, it
Hmm,
felt like that because it's not a complete opposite in that sense, but
hmm,
just the ideals. Let's say, for example, Vikram's dad carried very specific ideals about the fact that, I am creating a revolution and I am trying to, even in the jail, I'm trying to do things in the right manner. And
hmm,
he's not scared of going in the jail, and he's going in the most proud manner possible. He's not going to take a shortcut and get out of it. So
hmm,
it's a very idealistic it's a very idealistic person
hmm.
that we are being shown. Similarly, in that sense, Siddharth was very idealistic.
Yeah, but just one small thing to add. So, in context of masculinity, I think like from this we can maybe learn that one very important influence of masculinity can be your urge to reject your father's notion of masculinity, right? And I think this is something that we all also experience, right? Our own value system, as males at least, is influenced by what we don't like about our dads, and that's how we perhaps shape our perception of masculinity.
I wouldn't deny that one bit.
I'll just add to what Tariq said. So I think Siddharth's entire character that comes out on the screen is a rage that has developed with time towards his dad. So I think he has been portrayed by society as a guy who comes from a privileged background and someone who is in the position of power and not doing justice to it. It's similar to the character of, if you remember in Rang De Basanti, the son of, the finance minister
Even
in
his
that.
name was Siddharth, no? Sorry, his
Ah,
real name is Siddharth.
yeah, exactly. That's Siddharth. So I think the entire persona that comes on screen of Siddharth is an act of the rage that he carries against his father. If it would have not been for his father, I don't think the character coming on screen would have been possible. So I think the entire set, the entire premise of the film rests on the rage between son and father, and that's great. Matlab, you see people, you see people who are doing things just to like go against their parents at times. You hear them very frequently. So I think the entire premise on which this movie rests is the rage between a father and the son. That's where the movie actually starts, I think. So that's
yeah, absolutely. I think we finally found the starting point of the film in that sense, because I feel, again, as I mentioned earlier, with the specific political context is still the garb with which the film is being shown to us is still about three idealistic people trying to find their space in the world, and trying to find the balance between what their ideals are and how the world in reality works. So, and the seed of it all depends upon what your relationship with your parents and your father in specific for these men is like. And it's so obvious, for example, that the very small scene in the beginning of the film when Kekeman, as in Siddharth and his father are standing on the terrace, and his dad is trying to tell him something, but he's like, I'll not tell, because I just don't want to, because that's the kind of relationship that they share. Like the parenting that his dad has given him is that he won't force his opinions on his son, and his son is also very opinionated, so he probably won't listen to him as well. So that's the relation that they have shared, now that they are not very expressive about it at times as well. And the scene later on when his father is completely vulnerable in front of somebody he knew, and he's like, just can you do something? But he never did that earlier in his life, because he thought that my son will do things on his own, and it's his life, and he tried to be the, how to put it in the most general way possible, probably how the most open liberal Western parent, like in our understanding, as possible. But his Indian dad came out in the end, like kuch karo uske liye, like do something for him. Like is there no way to do it? So it was a lovely small bits about his father that I really liked.
I remember back in 2012 when I was studying back in Europe and Germany, I took two movies, and at that time you had CDs, you didn't have like all those things. I took two movies along with me. One was an indie Hindi film. It was called Missed Call, starring Ankur Vikal. And the second one was Hazaaron Khwaishein Aisi. And I mean, if you ask me what would be the one Hindi film that you want to watch for the rest of your life, it was either between Dev D by Anurag Kashyap or Hazaaron Khwaishein Aisi. I'm an Arab. I'm from Kuwait. I don't know if you still know that, Sankal, but when I watched this film for the first time, I mean, I couldn't get it out of my mind, even when I was praying, even when I was sleeping, even when I was just doing my daily tasks, because I believe the film reflected from Sudhir Mishra the most core problem, which is still multiplied today to this day, the most fundamental problem, and that is the system. Like, for example, I think the rest of the acquaintances, they just said the father dynamic and this. I have seen many privileged. I know many people like they have privileged life. The boys, especially, even girls. No gender here, but who wants to get out of the comfort life to discover the real grassroots level problems, like KK's character. When he goes and people accuse him of being the Naxals and whatnot, because he just dared to reflect the problem as what we still believe that's happening right now in India and elsewhere around the world, and this is never going to stop. And I think the characters of these three characters, they're not characters. They're the reflection of all the kind of, the status and, the mirror of the society of you, me, and the rest of the world, everywhere else. Hazaaron Khwaishein Aisi, I believe, is one of the most important film ever made in India. Believe me, I keep it like, I might be, it might sound blasphemous, but I keep it as standard of any film like Sholay or Mughal Azam. But for me, Hazaaron Khwaishein is like, I don't recommend this film to everyone because I believe, they might understand the actual power and reflection. I think after this film, even if Sudhir Mishra wouldn't have directed any film, I mean, that would have been great, because he keeps, going hits and miss. And the more we discuss about the film, the more we're going to unravel and uncover about a lot of other issues. But mainly, what I believe that the film should be, like, for me, this film was, it might sound controversial, but it was that time's Kashmir File, that It was very, very important and still relevant to this day.
I think one of the best aspects about the film was that it was a very poetic film. There was a lot of subtext throughout. It was not very out there in terms of its dialogue. It had a lot of subtext, as I mentioned. Like two, three scenes specifically, I remember. For example, there was this one scene where the maid is dusting off the photo film of Indira Gandhi, which was a very interesting scene because that was a time when Indira Gandhi, the Prime Minister of India, was causing mayhem or whatever you might call it. And apart from that, also the scene where it's a very random scene actually, but the scene when Siddharth's dad goes to the minister asking for help, there is this dog that is running around in the park outside, in the lawn outside, and all the peons and everybody in the house help is trying to catch the dog. That's how the scene starts, and then they go to the entire place inside when the dad talks to this minister. When he's coming out and he's basically is not helped, that's when the dog is caught and smile karke they are taking him back into the room. It was very random, but it was there in the background. It was happening. It was for some reason very absurd to me, but it was there. There was this another small instance which was very interesting to me. So I think in one of the camps or one of the village camps that were being set up, there was this one image of there was this sterilization campaign that the government then had done, where they were trying to reduce the number of children that women could have. So there was this one very interesting thing written over there that बीवी रहेगी टिप टॉप करेंगे हम सिर्फ 2 ही बच्चे करेंगे. So basically your woman would remain beautiful if you only have like a couple of kids and just stop over there. Something like that was mentioned in some regard. Just a random shot of that in the background, and it was very interesting just to see like these small elements add a lot of character to the entire story and help us understanding what time it is actually set in. I would like to wrap up the conversation by all of us talking about what our favorite scenes were and what is the one thing that we're going to leave with when we think about this film after a few years or maybe after a few months. What is it that one thing that we'll tell people on why they should watch this film?
2 scenes I would like to mention. The first one is that there was a phrase means that is Ayaram Gayaram. It was during the Haryana politics. It was that the candidates were switching parties overnight in order to gain support of the political party. So we see frequent switch of the character. His real name is Yashpal Sharma. So he was one of Shiny Ahuja's friend. He was switching during the emergency period. He was switching parties. So in one of the scene, when he came back again to Congress, I think he came back to Congress at the end. So there was scene where he was telling that it is my homecoming, and we see him in the background, and people are mixing drinks in their cups, and we see that in the foreground. So we see that how insignificant his homecoming is, that people are listening to him over a cup of drink. The second scene, and one of the most haunting scene for me, is that when during the emergency, the police have gathered all over the village and they were going for KK Menon, and one lady gave him shelter in the cowshed, I think, and she has gathered all the old women there, hiding him. And she was a young lady, and she dressed herself with mud and everything to look bad so that the police cannot molest her. And her face stayed with me for a long time, and it haunted me, because in the Bangladesh liberation war and in Syria, everywhere where there was full government power over the state, police brutality and all this molestation took place. So we came to know about the news, but what happened to the victims, we never knew. So her face stayed with me, and she haunted me for a long time.
So one of my favorite scene was like when Geeta, she leaves her house for the first time, and she stays with Vikram, I guess, in his flat. And at that point, Vikram brings champagne or something for her, and he has written a note, "Welcome home." But at the same time, she mentions that she can't stay and she'll be leaving to meet Siddharth. And he just removes that note, and he still pretends to be happy for her, even though he's not happy. So that I really love that scene. Also the last part where uh, he writes "I love you, Geeta" on stone. So that scene was also nice. And one scene, the one in the police station when they arrest Geeta and Siddharth, and they all are beating them, and the policeman, he is building the story which they will be telling the public or the government, like what happened and what exactly was happening. So I think that was also portrayed really well.
My favorite scene was the last scene where it ends and Baudaman starts playing. I don't think I've seen Utta Pyara, that cute little moment, for a long time. And what I want to take away from this film, and how I've been like, I have a sort of love-hate relationship with Sudhir Misra and with his films, but I think in Hazaaron Khwaishein Aisi, he believes in his characters. There is not any flawed characters, even though he has seen the limitations of choosing a certain path. He believes in what the character believes in. Even KK Menon does not have a sort of like, he's messed up. He does not know what he's doing. Even KK Menon knows. Geeta also knows in some sort of messed up, fucked up way. They knows what they are doing, and the showings of real oppression, what sort of talked about that scenes, like in so many bigger ideas of the world, what the film is talking about, in so many little things, that there is a famine in Bihar, and you are talking about this, and this sort of idealism, naive youth idealism. It has a presence, but very rooted presence, and it shows brutality in a real sense. Sudhir Misra does not got away with that, and he has shown this perfectly. And I feel I just want to take that, if you want to believe in the hopelessness of situation or hopefulness of situation, the right amount of hopelessness will reach you some sort of hopeful situation. So just believe in the journey, I think, and just know what you believe in, and believe in it with true fight. Like, just fight for your belief is what I'll take from the film. Yeah.
I think the film also has a similarity with this film by Bernardo Bertolucci. He's a very controversial director. The film called The Dreamers. It has a similar, rebellion and anarchist attitude towards the society through the art, but this is more towards political, and this has a little politics, sprinkled over it overall, but there's more sensual, erotic side, and this is more political. And on the surface side, I'm talking about Hazaaron Khwaishein. And coming back to what the poster is very deceiving. Yes, it looks like a typical, Hindi plus Bhojpuri, title. The only thing was, I think, lacking was the fire in the background to make it more Bollywood. But I think only the title would have been enough. The poem by Mirza Ghalib, the great. And the last scene, I think, when Vikram's character, that is, I think, Shania Ahuja's character, when he is screaming and he loses his voice with the scream in order to not to be, killed. Even the consciousness knocks at the door of the policeman. They look at each other. I think Saurabh Shuklaji, and there is the other one. I mean, within the evilness, there is a whiff of kindness and evilness and whiff of kindness again. Like, should we finish him? Should we not finish him? And he's screaming for his life, because when you scream off your lung, you lose your voice. And he was just waiting not to lose his voice for those few seconds. What if he misses out? What if he doesn't plead for his death? And the mistaken, obviously, everyone have seen the film. I don't want to go back there. But coming back to your question, I mean, the film should be not just revisited, should be viewed in every aspect. And even if you're not showing the film in Hindi and any other languages, Italian or Arabic or Iranian or Turkish, I think the film will still stay relevant to this date and for the future coming of our generation. It's a very important film from India. Proud to say that.